an estimate of saturated hydraulic conductivity, and because basically what it needs to know is how quickly water can move from here to the surface. Can it move at 3 millimetres a day to meet the evaporative demand? So if it's got lower conductivity, you need a shallower water table. So you need saturated hydraulic conductivity, and this rather strange number, the unsaturated exponential coefficient, that basically says as soil dries, its conductivity declines, and it's the exponential rate at which it declines. But for a sand, that we could take published values for that. For a sand, it tends to be high, while for a clay it's low. So I would guess for a sand, this exponential factor will be about 10. But we can look that up.
There's certainly been work done on saturated conductivity at the Newborough and generally at doing systems.
Yeah.
And I think when the water flows through saturated sand horizontally is about 10 metres a day.
10 metres a day sounds about right for sand, yes. In fact, these values you plug into the Richards equation, saturated hydraulic conductivity and this unsaturated coefficient, tend to correlate with each other. That in coarse soils like sands you get high values of both. In fine textured soils you get low values of both. And the way they work in Richards equation is they kind of cancel each other out. So that's why you don't get an awful lot of variation in this number between soil types. It's probably more, the variation you get is more driven by the climate than the soil. So it's not terribly sensitive to soil parameters. While this one is very sensitive to soil textures, so coarse soils, the ones in South Africa, I think Joseph was getting values of about 15 centimetres, while in some poorly structured clays you're getting down towards 50 centimetres. So there's a big variation in flooding threshold, but the soil drying threshold is pretty constant. I'm trying to work out why his red curve doesn't come up to this line. I think it might just be an artifact of PowerPoint that the triangle has slipped a bit. So it's exactly the same story as for the aeration stress. The simpler way is just to look at the period during which the water table is below that threshold. But being slightly more sophisticated, you also want to know the degree below the threshold, and so if you multiply the two together, you get the area again and a value in metre weeks.
That the variable duration of aeration stress or duration in weeks of drought stress, that hydrological variable means of quantifying severity. Was that selected, chosen? For example, might equally use the recurrence interval between events of aeration stress as a variable to explain plant distribution, for example. If species differ in their tolerances, recurrence interval might be valuable.
Typically these systems...
Although those variables have been sort of tested.
Well, we are working through various alternatives, looking at whether these durations and some exceedance values actually do give more exponential power than other possible ones that have previously been used. In terms of recurrence intervals, typically on these soils you get an aeration stress event each spring, so it is pretty much an annual cycle. And equally you get the the soil drying event happening each summer.
There's been some stuff done in the Netherlands on the sort of longer term frequency of these sorts of things, purely from a hydrological perspective, rather than started to relate it to vegetation at all.
Okay.
And they've developed some metrics for summarising the frequency of
More
things
extreme
as well.
events.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a chap in Birmingham, whose name Chris Bradley, who's looking at he's a geographer looking at the whole record of British climate from mid 18th century when they started, so 250 years, and there's something called the Palmer Index, which I can't remember what it is now, but it's looks at how relatively dry and wet different periods are. So okay. The other point I wanted to make while this is on the screen is Gonzalo's calculated the mean water table depth as 49 centimetres, so somewhere here, and that's what quite a few authors have used in the past, just to take a mean. But to contrast it with the methods used here, if the mean is sitting there, you could have a water regime giving you that mean that never had any aeration stress at all, so vegetation would never be affected by it, or it could be a very stable water table sitting next to a pond or something that was always just on the verge of the surface soil drying. So if it's absolutely stable, you could have your soil drying duration spread over the whole period, but have very little some exceedance because the water table is only a centimetre below the threshold. Or you could have a sudden drop somewhere in the middle that would give you that mean and yet give you a huge sub-exceedant value. So there is some correlation, as we've found, between mean water table and these other measures, but it's not necessarily a close correlation. There's a lot of variability that's not described by the mean depth. And so the sort of parameters we've used to see which has the most power are means, medians, ranges, standard deviation, as well as these durations and some exceedances. Okay.
We found that trying to use the maximum and the minimum is quite tricky, especially when you've got historical records.